藩孫手幕府のんつか。くどいな。証拠を見せたろ。
Hey guys, it's Will. It's Hong Kong Cinema Appreciation Society. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, welcome and thank you for finding us. I do hope you're doing well. If you feel like subscribing, that would be much appreciated. And also drop in the comments what you think about this movie, what you think about, it's actually 3 movies I'm going to be talking about today, what you think about the release. And let me know what you had for breakfast, because I had a poppy seed bagel for breakfast and you may well be seeing some poppy seeds in my teeth. Sorry, not sorry. I love poppy seeds. What can I say? The bane of my existence. I'm always going to work with poppy seeds in my teeth. We're talking about the Bounty Hunter trilogy from Radiance Films. There are 3 movies in this set, and this is gonna be kind of like a little overview of what this set is, and me talking very briefly about 2 of the films. I have not actually watched the 3rd film in this set, but I saw on Twitter the other day that so this is a limited edition set, and I believe it is both the US and UK release. The US version is sold out. Whatever is left with retailers is all that is left. So if you live in the US, if you are watching this video, if you love, I love Chanbara, Japanese, sword fighting movies. I love the Zatoichi series, and I'm a huge fan of James Bond. The first film in this series is like Zatoichi meets 60s James Bond. It is one of the most outrageously entertaining films I have seen in years. I loved it so much. But if you are a fan of like samurai films, Zatoichi, Shogun Assassin, like any of that stuff, if you're in the US, go to your favorite online retailer right now, whoever that would be, Diabolic or Orbit or whoever you buy, Grindhouse or whoever you buy Blu-rays from, and see if you can get this immediately, because the ones that are left with retailers, like I said, are all that's left. I don't know what's going on with the UK version of it. So these films were released between 1972 and 1969, and they actually star Tomisaburo Akiyama, who is the brother of Shintaro Katsu, who plays Zatoichi. So there's this hard shell case here, and then it pops out, and you get 2 different thingamajigs. You get 2 different Blu-ray cases within it. So Killer's Mission, the first film, which, like I said, is like my new favorite movie, and just like so ridiculously, incredibly, outrageously entertaining that I couldn't even believe I was watching it while I was watching it. I tweeted about the movie within like the first 5 minutes of putting it on, being like, okay, I'm 5 minutes into this movie, and the dude is already covered in blood and has made several ridiculous like James Bond style jokes. He's got all these insane gadgets. So this is the booklet for the whole trilogy. There's a scene where he's got like a walking stick, and then he pops it out and it's a telescope, and he's like a freaking pirate. Like it's got so many ridiculous gadgets. He's a doctor, by the way. So that's like, it's just inherently silly, by the way. Freaking 19th century machine gun. So here's the info about the films, by the way. So Killer's Mission, which was directed by Shigeru Ozawa, which was released in 1969. And then The Fort of Death, amazing title, released in 1969, which is directed by Eiichi Kudo. There you go. And then the third one, which, like I said, I have not watched, is also Shigehiro Ozawa, who directed the first one, and it's called 8 Men to Kill, and it came out in 1972. So the first 2 films, interestingly, because they have different directors, right? The first 2 films actually have pretty different tones. Can we also just say the essay is called So Many People Are Dead. Oh God, I just dropped one of the cases. It is what it is. Life keeps moving. So, and then this is 8 Men to Kill and Fort of Death. They both come in the they're on one disc. Some people have said like, oh, is the quality of it lesser because they're shared on one disc? Or I know that some people get upset about, like when when these sets are released and movies are two movies are on one disc. And I watched Fort of Death, and I didn't notice anything about it where I was like, hey, this isn't up to my standard. So I enjoyed it, and I thought it looked really good. But honestly, like, I mean, these movies, they're so entertaining, and they're so outrageous, and they're so fun. And there is a pronounced spaghetti western kind of flavor in the second one. Like I said, I haven't watched the third one yet, but here he is looking hella like his brother. Got like a full-on Zatoichi vibe going on there. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about Killer's Mission, because there was some stuff about that movie. Like I said, I mean, I just love James Bond movies, right? And I love 60s Bond, and I love Zatoichi, and that movie is really like those two things grafted together, and it's like those are like two of my like all-time top 10 favorite film series ever, and they're happening at the same time in this movie. So it's like, you know, I'm really like the target audience for this set here. But Fort of Death, I'll give you a little bit about Fort of Death, and then I'll give you kind of some more detailed thoughts on my my impressions of Killer's Mission. It's also worth mentioning there is some very solid bonus material on this release, including here I've got. So it comes with, you know, with this little like wraparound thing, and then you can take that off and keep it if you want, or recycle it if you want, or do whatever you feel like it. Audio commentary by Tom Mez. There's an interview with Akihiko Ito, visual essays, trailers, booklet with new writing by Alan Silver, and newly translated archival writings on the film. And then there's, I'm just trying to see if there's anything else on here. That looks like a pretty good overview. And then there's like those postcards, lobby card type of things and everything like that. The Fort of Death is a very similar plot to like Seven Samurai. There's these people, and they're being terrorized, and they go and they try to find some, you know, brave warriors to help them protect their village and their way of life. And so they run into the primary character here, who's the doctor, who's also a mercenary spy, badass samurai dude, I guess you would call him. And he goes to the fort, and it's very much like a people trapped in a location being assaulted, you know, like Assault on Precinct 13. There's like a lot of films like that, like Seven Samurai is like obviously like the one that you think of when you think of those types of films, but there's a fair number of films like that. Even like zombie movies are like that, right? Like in Day of the Dead, they're all, or is it Dawn of the Dead, excuse me, they're all in the shopping mall, and they're being like, you know, assaulted by the zombies and stuff like that. It's a really good, like, gritty, it's a grittier film than the first one. It doesn't have as much of like a tongue-in-cheek James Bond Zatoichi type of tone. It's more of like a gritty spaghetti western type of samurai movie. Sorry, I just totally lost my train of thought. It's like a gritty spaghetti western samurai type of movie, and it has a really spectacular like final action sequence. It's like bloody and brutal and violent, and like it's a really good, just kind of, you know, late 60s early 70s style, like grindhousey chambara western type of film. The first movie in the series, Killer's Mission, has that kind of 60s James Bond Zatoichi tone where the whole thing is just like ridiculous and funny. But it also has got like, there's a really great scene of like he's trying to take a boat somewhere, and it starts raining, and he ends up in this this kind of like tavern type of place where there's all these people because they're all stuck because it's raining and no one can go anywhere. And it's got really great ambiance. Like everything is dripping and wet, but there's also like all this kind of intrigue in this space because there's all these rogues who are, you know, traveling around the countryside, and none of them trust each other, and they're trying to like swindle each other and things like that. And there's some really amazing action sequences. It gets like kind of dark and serious in places in the same way that the Zatoichi movies do, where people's lives are threatened and things like that. But amidst this tone of goofiness and this really entertaining, like violent kind of escapade that you're being taken on, there's some really, really good character stuff in this film. There's a character named Kagero, who is this woman who the main dude, I should probably just tell you the name of the main dude so I don't have to just keep saying the main dude. Tomi Saburo Wakayama is the actor. It looks like Ling Feng is his name. The main dude meets this woman, and he's like kind of suspicious of who she is, and you think that she's like this person, then you think she's that person, and her identity is like constantly kind of shifting until you really kind of find out who she is kind of towards the end of the film. Like you think you know, and then you think you know again. It's really interesting. She's a very three-dimensional and interesting character. she's not just like a femme fatale or like a Bond girl type of eye candy character, but she's also not just a kind of fly in the ointment dramatic device. She exists as like multiple types of tropes all in one character. It's a really interesting like meta examination or like dismantling of like the kind of tropes that you have of women in these types of films. She kind of reminded me of the character whose name I'm not going to remember, and I apologize for that. But if you've seen Goldfinger, the James Bond movie, you know, the famous thing that happens in that movie at the beginning is the woman is found like asphyxiated because she's painted all gold, right? Her sister becomes, I think it's her sister, a sister of someone who is killed by the villain, becomes a character in the film. And it's a really interesting, like very serious, kind of multi-layered examination of that character within this kind of silly movie. And the Kagero character kind of reminded me of that. There's also a character named Ijuin, who is maybe my favorite character in the whole movie. So what is happening in this film is this kind of clan of samurai. If I remember and again, it's been a couple months since I watched this movie, but if I remember correctly, this clan has decided it's going to break off from the shogunate. They're kind of going to do their own thing and like rebel, and they want to create their own little fiefdom or whatever. And this Ijuin character, now it's like a very Japanese exploration of theme, right? Because it's obligation versus desire, right? He is a member of this clan, and he loves this clan, and he has pledged his life to this clan, and it is his moral and social obligation to best support and do right by the clan and the family, right? And so he has this moral conflict of the guy who's in charge of the clan is telling him one thing, but he knows something else to be true. But so what is his real duty to the clan? Is it to do what he thinks is right, or to do what everyone else says they should be doing, right? So how does he best serve his obligation, and where does his obligation and his desire overlap, and where do they conflict, right? It's a really interesting character conflict, and he and the Kagero character end up pushing the movie in these really kind of unexpected and fascinating directions. And so it's a really freaking outrageously entertaining, amazing 60s like samurai spy violent escapade adventure type of film, but it also has some really well done character work in it that really like drew me in and intrigued me. And like I said, Fort of Death is, I dropped the case for Killer's Missions. That's on the floor. We'll leave that there for now. It's casual. We're just friends chatting. Fort of Death is a more like brutal, kind of serious, you know, Sergio Leone type of like Western extravaganza film set in Japan with lots of like shooting, stabbing, blood, violence, and stuff like that. So I think if you're like a fan of Westerns, especially spaghetti Westerns and like 60s and 70s grindhouse movies, you might like Fort of Death more. Me being a huge James Bond fan, a huge Zatoichi fan, and generally speaking, a fan of goofiness and silliness and ridiculousness, the first one was kind of more up my alley, but I did really like both of these films. So that I watch. And again, there's also 8 Men to Kill, which I have yet to watch, so that gives me more to enjoy in this set. It is the Bounty Hunter trilogy. There it is, from Radiance Films. That's The Outer Case. My name is Will. You are watching Hong Kong Cinema Appreciation Society. Obviously, these are Japanese films, and it's Hong Kong Cinema Appreciation Society, but there's so much overlap between Japanese cinema fandom and Hong Kong cinema fandom, and people ask me so many questions all the time about, have I seen this Japanese movie, that Japanese movie, what I think about them, like which releases are worth picking up from upcoming Japanese. Like this to me is thus far, I mean, I know we're only 5.5, 6 months into the year so far, but in the first half of the year, this is one of like the, you know, top 5 must-have releases for me so far. So try to get your hands on that. I'm Will. It's Hong Kong Cinema Appreciation Society. We'll see you next time.